Life Audio.
Today on Talk About That, John teaches us about the history of candy and ponders growing a skullet. Meanwhile, I have a senior moment at the movie theater and try to find out why Betty Ford danced on a table at the White House. Plus a conversation about how difficulties and trials tend to deepen our relationships. Today's episode is not sponsored by the stock market, like a casino, but without the free drinks. But first, a word from our actual sponsor.
Put those headphones in, guys. Sit back and relax and enjoy another episode of Talk About That with John and Johnny.
How would they have heard that first part if they didn't have headphones in then?
That's a good point. Well, you could hear it through your phone before you plugged it in.
I saw a movie last week, by the way, and I felt the oldest I've ever felt. Because it was great, because I watched this other podcast. I watch this podcast sometimes called Food Court that a buddy of mine who's a comedian, Sean Parrott, does. And they just review movies.
Yeah.
And I don't go to the movies very much anymore. We've talked about this. That kind of movies has become kind of a thing. It's a lot of money, and it's also just like you stream everything, and your home is like your movie theater now. You got your recliner, you got your stuff.
Right.
You got your high-def television, you got your sound system, whatever. And so the experience of going to the movies is changing. So I go to the movies maybe twice a year now, and I was a big movie guy.
Oh, yeah.
But it takes a lot to get me to the movies now. But they reviewed this movie called Black Bag, which seemed like an old-style spy thriller. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know anything about it except for, you got to go see it. It's got a 98% tomato meter, whatever. Go see it. And I think who's in it? Michael Fassbender. I can't remember who all's in it. But it's basically just this. It's a lot of Brits. So I'm sitting in this theater, and you know what I'm about to say. I'm sitting there, and I'm enjoying it. And it's a very cool movie. But I am having to process in real time these accents. And I'm thinking, where are my captions? I am freaking out because I'm like, you know how you realize what they said after they get up and do, you're like, oh, he said this.
But now you're already like three scenes.
Right? Yeah, you're not, my processor's not going as fast because I'm not able to read.
Right.
And I'm thinking, I wonder if this is going to lose even more people.
Yeah.
Because they're like, I need my captions.
I need my captions. Yeah, sometimes that's just one character will come on. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, we'll turn this on until I get used to this character.
Right.
It's like getting into a hot tub.
Okay.
Like an accent hot tub.
Yeah.
And then once you're used to it, you turn it back off. And now I know. You got to train yourself.
That sounds like an app, Accent Hot Tub.
AccentHotTub.com, not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor.
Could be, though.
Yeah.
No, you know what? Interestingly enough, did you know that Raisinets...
Sure.
Snowcaps.
Also not a sponsor.
Goobers. Mm-hmm. And...
Are you going to say these all have the same ingredients?
Milk Duds.
No, okay.
Milk Duds. Okay. These candies that are traditionally what you eat in movie theaters were created for movie theater industry.
Okay.
Like they weren't like candies that you can buy them elsewhere.
You couldn't get a Milk Dud on the street.
Right.
They were just
if you did, you wouldn't want to eat it. Because let me tell you something.
Don't eat a Milk Dud in the
Those
street.
contraband Milk Duds, people were dying left and right.
Or just literally on the street. Don't eat a street dud.
That may not be a Milk Dud.
That's not a Milk Dud at all.
If it looks like a Milk Dud and it's on the street, don't eat it.
Like, I'm glad we didn't step in this.
This sounds like advice that Santa gave to Elf before he went to New York City. Anyway, yeah, so like popcorn was a thing originally, but it was so messy.
Yeah.
It left so much. And so this is what's interesting. Movie theaters.
And people would get dressed up to go to the theater too, so they don't want oily stains on their.
Right. Well, have you ever heard of movie palaces?
Sure. Heard that phrase.
So at first, they were, these were just kind of like wherever you could project. And then they kind of wanted to go like Broadway theaters. And so that's why there's still a couple that exist today that are really famous. But they built these like elaborate theaters.
Big chandeliers and the whole thing.
Yeah, for movie productions and projections. And so they didn't want people coming in there all dressed up like you're going to Broadway and eating popcorn and leaving grease everywhere and butter and all the stuff on the floor. So they produced these other candies. And so the guys came up with this. That's
less mess.
That's why those candies right now, even to this day, you don't go into a gas station and think about am I going to get a Snickers? Or am I going to get some snow caps?
Yeah, they feel like a movie theater candy.
Because they are.
Yeah.
And
Junior Mints, maybe?
And Junior Mints was the other one.
Okay, yeah. I'm sorry to say, I think the first time I ever had a Junior Mint was in a movie theater.
And they were all the same company. Junior Mints, Goobers. Now, Milk Duds was a different company.
Okay.
The guy worked for like 4 years trying to create a perfectly spherical milk dud, and you never could because the hot chocolate
made it kind of flatten out on
would
the
always
tray.
melt the caramel on the inside. That's why they're called duds. He finally just gave into it. Like, I can't. These are just duds, and he just gave into it, and here we go. But do you think about it? They're not as uniform shaped, any of them. They're just chocolate. They just throw them into like this tumbler almost. Just throw it in there, and you could chocolate cover almost anything. We'll make a chocolate cover peanut. There's your goober. We'll make a chocolate cover mint thing. There's your. So anyway, when you eat that theater candy, it was made for that experience.
Yeah,
but made to replace popcorn. That's why they're bigger, and you can eat it long, especially the big caramel things.
People that throw the sweet snacks into the popcorn and just have grab all because they want the sweet and salty together. You ever see people do that?
No.
Throw the Reese's Pieces into the popcorn and then they just kind of reach in there.
No.
Yeah, those people are out there.
Interesting.
It's like the people that dip their fries in the Frosty.
I'll do that.
They want that salty sweet.
I could do that all day.
Yeah.
Johnny, I've done that all day, and that's why
this feels like a food podcast now.
We've got health issues.
Yeah, I don't know.
We have, I would say, you and I have an interesting, both of us, interesting food histories. And I don't mean like just what we've eaten, but I mean like there's a relationship with food that's complicated here on Talk About That.
Sure.
Sometimes we do talk about food. I'd say every episode there's a food segment.
Probably.
We need to create a segment just about food. Because that's someone
eat about that.
Someone sent us a message and they wanted me to do a new segment. And I realized then Johnny has 2 segments.
2 segments.
I only have 1.
How many segments do you think we would have if I hadn't had the idea to have segments? Because you just want to have a free-for-all.
That is not true. I just didn't think we could ever get there and be consistent.
And who had the foresight to think that we could get there?
Well, it's true. After about 3 or 4 or 5 years, you got if you want to know the dynamic of Johnny and me on this front, it's Johnny's a dreamer.
No,
he's a dreamer.
Am I?
He shoots for the stars.
Yeah,
and I'm also a dreamer.
I think I just want to find fault with everything that you do. I'm a critic.
Wow, I didn't know that you knew it was that.
Yeah.
I thought you were just doing it and it feels like that to me. But you're telling me, no, I know what I'm doing.
No, I know.
I want to find fault with everything you do.
I don't want to. I just do. I find fault.
This reminds me of something.
Well, you finish what you were saying, though.
Well, that's the thing.
I'm a dreamer.
And so then I'm trying to execute.
Some say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one.
I'm trying to execute Johnny's dreams.
Yeah.
Here on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I know it takes a lot of equipment.
Not like execute them. Like
no, I put them up against that wall and shoot them. No. I think it's a good match, but it takes time. Like the change right now of The Office took a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm still not done.
No.
But the pictures are almost all picked now. Now it's got to get the frames.
But I don't know if I want a bunch of pictures back here.
So here's what's going to happen, people.
I think they need to go on this other wall that we don't see.
Here's what's going to happen, people. I'm going to put the pictures right here where I want them. Because I'm working in here now. I'm working, people. And if it doesn't make for a good back shot, we're hanging a curtain, a retractable curtain. And I'll just pull the curtain and it'll be just like now. In fact, it'll be better because the light will catch in a black curtain better than that wall right there. I've already researched it.
And when the curtain opens, and it's like a theater. It's like
it is.
Everybody reaches
and
for
then
their snow
someone brings
caps.
in some milk duds. And
snow caps they weren't ever my favorite. Snow caps.
No, not snow caps. But to this day, Junior Mints. Actually, my favorite of all time still is Raisinets. And that was the one in there that they started with.
Pretty good.
A guy came in, no one wanted it, and he was like shopping because he was a movie theater guy. He was actually the father of concessions.
Okay.
Yeah. So he came up with concessions. Started off in like a Broadway thing. Started figuring out how he came up with a concession machine. So they had machines doing
like
automatic.
a vending machine.
Yeah, they had vending machines for other things, but not for food. So he started thinking of what kind of food could last in there. And listen, you know where this is. You know where this is all from.
I know.
The Food That Built America people. We should get the History Channel to become a sponsor. Maybe they will be. We don't know what's on that. We don't know what
kind of
comes
a history
up.
podcast now, more than we were in the beginning.
I don't want to get you excited.
Okay.
But that project we've been talking about a long time. I think it's been about 2 years. I'm waiting on the final draft of the final contract to sign, and then I'll be writing a new history book.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about, now I don't want to say this, because if I don't do it, I look like a fool, Johnny, a fool.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about starting maybe a limited series podcast about that topic of the book.
And not including me.
I don't know if you'd want to be included
No.
for this.
Can I be left out?
You want to be left out?
Well, I mean, you probably need to get people that know about the topic.
I don't know if it's gonna.
Other scholars.
I don't know if I'll be interview based or if I'll just tell the stories, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then
I want to do a podcast critiquing that podcast.
it could be.
I want to be like
the rise and fall of John Driver's podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
By the way, the guy that did the Rise and Fall of Mars Hill, another really famous podcast in our time. They have a new one out about the Satanic Panic, which we talk about a lot here.
Oh, really? I'd be
They
interested in
go
that.
through the 80s and 90s and all the stuff.
Yeah.
I think that I'm going to listen to that one because you and I have a lot of discussions here about that.
Yeah, I think moral panics in general are fascinating to me because of the way they just shape culture and the way that the ripple effects continue like generationally. Because now we're kind of back to it.
Yeah.
We're kind of back. We're seeing it now again in like popular culture with like people thinking that everyone in Hollywood is trafficking children or whatever, just because it's like popular to say it. Like if you don't like somebody's politics, you just go, they're on the Epstein list or whatever you want to say.
Right.
There's no proof. There's nobody ever has. It's just you can just say it, and you just go. It's a new moral panic.
Yeah. If the country even tried to monitor what is libel or slander.
Yeah.
Like, because the justice system is so backed up as it is, you could never keep up now with all that. Like, you have to be a billionaire to be able to actually try to hold someone accountable for...
Which now billionaires are good.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that's happened. It's like we have billionaires we like and billionaires we don't like.
I've known one billionaire.
Okay.
And he was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the highest character people that I've met. You know what I'm saying? So it's not. I don't think it's a matter of
But
money.
he also paid you a lot of money to write a book with him. So are you bought and paid for?
I didn't get paid.
Are you in on the grift?
I didn't get paid any more than I get paid to write other books.
How much would I have to pay you, John?
Johnny?
Can we talk off air about it?
A book needs to happen.
John, this seems like a good time.
It does.
To bring in a few of our fine sponsors that help us keep the lights on here to talk about that. Podcast.com. I don't know. Anyway, let's hear from them.
Hey, we're back.
I went to a movie last night that was an older movie. They're doing a retrospective at the local art house, which is the Bell Court. You ever go to the Bell Court?
I've been to the Bell Court.
So the Bell Court's doing a series of films based on what they call the Saturday Night Live universe. So if you were ever on Saturday Night Live or a contributor, and then you did a movie, or if Lorne Michaels produced or not, they kind of are doing like this a month long. And so they did one because Christopher Guest was one of my favorites from the 80s.
Yeah.
He was only on there a couple of seasons, but he went on to produce all these what you call mockumentaries.
Yeah.
He was in Spinal Tap. That was not his. A lot of people think that was the first one, but actually that was a Rob Reiner production.
Right.
But then he went on to make things like Waiting for Guffman, which was about local theater. And then he did Best in Show, which is about dog show people.
Yeah.
And then my favorite is A Mighty Wind, which is about folk music. And so they were showing it at the Bell Court, and we went last night. But anyway, the trailers they showed, some of them were for old movies that were out. That were part of the other Saturday Night Live universe, and one of them was they showed the original trailer for Wayne's World, and it was such a weird trip to see. Like,
I just said no way.
First of all, just how movie trailers were presented back then versus now was such a difference in the 90s, and so that was kind of a trip. But it was funny because the theater pretty full. It was like 2/3 full, and it was interesting to see people laugh, knowing the jokes. We know the gags, like they've become part of our culture.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool, though. But yeah, that was a wild one, seeing Wayne's World and that whole, I don't know, watching like that influence on the universe from such a silly film. But I don't know. But I'm a big fan of A Mighty Wind. That's one of those ones that, not a sponsor, and not a ringing endorsement. I can't endorse everything in the movie, but I just like the idea that you make a universe of characters and bands that did not exist. You have to write their backstory. You have to write a music catalog for that group. And so you have to be real musicians to do it. And these songs never existed, but they have to fit in popular culture in this time frame that they supposedly existed. And so I like that so much that they take all that care. And that's why I love that. And actually, one of those songs was nominated for Best Original Song at the Oscars that year. It's a song called Kiss at the End of the Rainbow that they wrote for Mitch and Mickey, who are this folk duo that's like the star-crossed lovers.
Wow.
The male and female duo. And then, so they wrote this Kiss at the End of the Rainbow song. And Michael McKean and Ned O'Toole, his wife, they wrote that song. And it was nominated for Best Song at the Oscars that year. And it's a made-up song for a made-up group. I think that's so great. What a cool...
Isn't that kind of how the Monkees were, though? Cause
They were cast as like these people watched Hard Day's Night. And they were like, we got to get in on this. Because the Beatles were such a phenomenon. And so they literally just like put out a casting call and spread this whole net and like found these good looking guys. And
talented guys.
Yeah. And then they just became a thing. But they were basically trying to be a TV version of the Beatles.
That's what gets me is how people were okay with the idea. It's like it wasn't hacky. Or maybe they thought it was hacky.
No, people like really... they had a lot of strikes against them going out of the box. It's just they kind of won over a lot of other people.
Well, and that's probably
you just outlast your critics.
I'm a little kid back then, right?
Right.
So I don't know what's happening.
No, this would have been. We probably saw it in syndication.
Right, we're seeing a syndication, and you think, so you don't know that this has been. Someone's been very critical of this, right? All you know is the gags and the.
I think there's something to be said for kind of just outlasting your critics. If you go make something. Even if it started in one thing, like eventually they did write some great sons. So it's not a matter of like they weren't.
You can't listen. You can't deny a great song. Great song's a great song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like Johnny, "Achy Breaky Heart." Listen,
it outlasted its.
I actually didn't like it when it came out.
The mullet's coming back in a big way too.
I can't
These
do it.
Mullets are out here, bro.
I see boys in Sadie's generation.
I think you're a little jealous because you could have a mullet. I guess.
could do a mullet still.
Wow, the skullet. That's what that's called.
Wow,
you have nothing on top, and you got the.
What would happen if I went and got treatments and had my hair back at this point after now being bald for like 5 years?
I don't know.
Like if you
people do it in Hollywood. I mean, Jeremy Piven. There's a few people that have done it, and they just go, look. Theo Von, who's a pretty famous comedian, like he talks about having hair transplant.
I don't think I could do transplant, but I could do some of those treatments.
Oh.
Although when I hear the radio thing, it's like, and all I have to do.
It's every day, right? You can't stop.
Drive during my lunch break to another location for 45 minutes. I'm like, what? I'm not. Yeah. I'd rather be bald.
I thought that was transplants.
By the way, I was in the dentist today, and I almost said your joke. Because she's like, she's like, okay, your daughter plays volleyball, right? I was like, yeah. She's like, I saw a picture of you somewhere on something. Mm-hmm. And of course I was like, well,
pretty big deal.
I'm all over the place. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I do, I'm a pastor and I write, and you might have seen a book, something, or probably podcast though, on a something podcast related online is where we post the most right now. But as she was flossing me, I wanted to say, my buddy says he would not, like if it added 5 years to his life,
right,
he still would not floss. Because I'm not going to do it at this point.
Yeah, because you have to spend that 5 years flossing.
Right. Yeah. Not going to do it.
Yeah. You just added 5 more years of flossing to my life.
Yeah. Johnny, I think it's about that time.
Oh, is it? Speaking of pearls of wisdom.
It's my one segment.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Let me call it, They Talked About That.
Let's make it count. I feel pretty good about that one. I just needed to open my mouth more. That's
all these years as a singer. That's all. We could have had a deal.
Didn't happen. Make a deal.
James Thurber, born 1894, died 1961. American cartoonist, writer, humorist, journalist, and playwright. Best known for cartoons and short stories.
Renaissance man.
Yeah. He said, "Love is what you've been through with somebody." Mm-hmm. That's it. If you're waiting for more, yeah. Love is what you've been through with somebody.
Huh.
And I was thinking about that. I actually read a quote this morning, but if I keep quoting C.S. Lewis and Dallas Willard and G.K. Chesterton every week, you know what I'm saying? But it was talking about the balance. It was the balances between, it was Dallas Willard, the pleasure and pains of life. And if you took one away, life would cease to exist as we know it. But like the idea of love being what you feel for somebody versus love being what you've been through with somebody. And of course, that's the language of the loyalist, right? I can remember, and you and I were in the band at this point. In fact, I had orange hair.
Yeah.
At the time, not on purpose.
No, you're trying to go blonde.
Well, I did go blonde.
Yeah.
Laura, I think.
And then you tried to get it to go back, and it was.
And we wanted to go back and go auburn, like back to brown auburn. But instead, it turned into like real auburn, like the orange
like
auburn
tigers.
And then we're like, you can't, right? Like you can't do anything else to it for a while. Your hair's going to fall out. So I just had orange hair on UT campus.
Do you think that's why your hair fell out?
Oh, no.
10 years later?
I don't think so. But I remember I got the phone call. If you guys have never heard the story, when Laura was in nursing school, my wife, we were just engaged, and we kind of had a running joke that everything that she would study, if you really pay attention to it long enough, you have like, of the 10 symptoms, you probably have 3 or 4 right now.
Yeah, every nursing school student becomes a hypochondriac.
It's like, oh my gosh, my back hurts like that, whatever.
Right.
And so she called me one day, she goes, John, I think I've had a brain aneurysm. Mm-hmm. And of course, I have no idea what a brain aneurysm is. I'm 19 or whatever. I'm like, no, you don't. That sounds really, I've heard it. It sounds
you've
really
got a
bad.
headache.
Don't do it. And so turns out, long story short, she was right.
Yeah.
And they rushed her to the hospital, and it was the bleeding on her brain was so bad that the scans in her room, when the doctor came in, he thought it was a dead person's
scans. Yeah, it looks all white. Yeah,
that there was someone that had died. Totally they left these scans in here, and it was hers. And he was like, how are you talking and walking? Yeah. And she's had the worst headache of her life. And I got in my car in Knoxville and did 110. I made it from Knoxville to Nashville in an hour and a half, which is normally a 2.5 to 3 hour drive. And got there not knowing she's going to be alive or dead. This is before I had a cell phone, but it's not like you're texting or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't really know, you don't want to be texting and driving 110 anyway, Johnny.
No.
I'm telling you right now.
No.
But all that being said, we went through a whole journey. It was just miraculous. The stories I could tell. She had 3 brain surgeries. They were non-invasive. It was a new technique going through the arteries. To this day, she has platinum in her brain that
gives her superpowers.
Basically plugged up her aneurysm, and it was caused by an AVM, which is an arteriovenous malformation, which is a thing you get when you're born, or you have it when you're born, and it doesn't usually show up to the decade of life. And usually when you die, that's when it shows up.
Yeah, that's when they realize you had it.
Right.
You finally have an aneurysm and it kills you.
Yeah. And so through that journey, when she came out, she had radiation, the whole deal. When she came out of that, we weren't married yet, but we had been through something. Mm-hmm. And I will never forget this. And I'm telling you, as a dad, this breaks my heart still. My father-in-law is one of my favorite people in the world. We've become, I think, much closer over the years. He's just great. Mm-hmm. And she woke up from her first surgery and asked for me. And he said, I guess there's another man in her life now.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't really put it together then. I was just
what
happy.
That meant to him,
I was just happy to be the man, right?
Yeah.
And now I would punch a dude. You know what I'm saying? Like as a dad.
Sadie comes out of brain surgery and asks for some guy, you'd be like,
well, yeah, especially
I will destroy him.
Yeah. And like, again, she's on his insurance. I mean, you get all that stuff, but he didn't do that to me.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, oh my gosh, all the things now. I would just clock a dude. But I think about after that, before we ever got married, we felt like we were married because we'd been through something. And I think it advanced our relationship and marriage by like 5 years.
Right.
When we got married, it's like when you face mortality, I think James Thurber's right. Like, and even Laura to this day sometimes will say, because there was a moment it was the weirdest thing. I handed her a card to read, and Laura's a speed reader, and she couldn't read it.
She could make her brain
sat there
form the words.
for like 5 minutes, and she was like, John, I can't read this. It's like, what do you mean you can't read it? So if you hand her a pen, she could write, but she couldn't read. It was a very, if you heard of dyslexia, it was a very like specific kind of lexia that's very rare. And for a moment that we didn't know if she'd ever be able to ever like read again, which that's her career, right? I mean, you can't be a nurse and can't, like if she could ever like interpret words on paper, and there was a chance she wouldn't be able to, a moment she couldn't talk before one of her surgeries, she had a seizure, and she was just saying random words, like just random, she doesn't have any recollection of it. And I don't think I thought of it like this back then, but she'll say to me sometimes, you realize like you were staying with me not knowing if I would be like, there or not. And I remember it not being like a question. I'm a loyalist, right? That's how God made me.
Yeah.
But man, that jumps the commitment level
Right.
way, way up, you know. And I just think about everybody's listening. I think we all try to get around going through things. And I think that's okay. Like I do, I pray, we talked about it before, I pray that God will take us around as much trouble as possible. But I know there's going to be some that he takes us through. And I think that love, there's a kind of love that you just can't know till you've been through something with somebody.
Yeah, and it's true. And it's we avoid things, but when you look back on your life, the stories that you tell, it's never like, and then we went to Cancun for 2 weeks.
Right.
It's when the rainstorm caused your flight to be delayed. And you know what I'm saying? Like you tell those things of like whenever you get comedians in a room, the stories we tell are
when you bombed.
And I bombed so bad. And then I found out later that no one there spoke English or what, some crazy, you know, it's always, those are the ones that we want to hear. And those are the things that, like, if you're on tour with somebody, those are the things that I remember I do these shows with Tim Hawkins and I would get back and you'd go, where'd you go? Where were you this weekend? And I almost could not remember because they felt like the same show.
Yeah.
They were all great.
Yeah.
But like, if you asked me what happened in Tupelo when you were by yourself and it was 40 people and it was a lock-in and you should have said no to it, but you did it. I can remember that story like the back of my hand.
Complete recollection, yeah.
And also I think about my relationship with Curry and the fact that she's like, I tell stories on the stage now in my new hour about her staying with me in the early days of my career when we did not know. I gave up health insurance for 18 months. Yeah. Because I left this job at the church to go pursue this dream. And then she lost her job and we were, you know, she was on unemployment and then she got denied unemployment. So we're like, just, do we give up on my dream? Do I go get a regular job now because I have no health? Like all those decisions, like now you're on the other side of it and that's the gold. Because you realize that person's been through it. Yeah. You know, you can trust, your level of trust for them goes up through the roof. Yeah. Because they've seen everything.
Wow.
You know?
I was thinking about that when I was talking to Jesus about some difficult things this week. And I don't know. I was like, I don't know why we're in some of this stuff. I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. But I was like, I asked him, I was like, what? I tried to remember, what have I learned in the past? What have I learned in the past from difficult moments that I didn't know? Because you forget, right? But you get to access that thing you've been through. Mm-hmm. And what I remembered was, I have a chance right now before there's any resolution to this particular problem to go ahead right now and tell you that I trust you. Yeah. So I don't know what you're going to do. You may let this go bad. I just want you to know that I trust you. I trust that you hear me. I trust that you're not ignoring me. I'm not abandoned. And there's a thing, Reggie and I are going to write soon, a book on hope. And so it's what we're working on now a little bit, just in the prep stage. And one of the things I've been really thinking about hope, there's a scripture that says that hope does not disappoint because the love of God has been poured out in our hearts. And I've always been like, the two things for some reason never connected to me. It's like, that's too like, I don't know, it sounds like platitude. Yeah. Hope does not disappoint because God's love is poured out in our hearts. Well, I was like, well, when I get really disappointed, what good does that do, kind of thing? You know what I'm saying? When the hopes are dashed or whatever. And it sort of hit me the other day. If God loves you, the reason hope doesn't disappoint is no matter what you're facing, you know, if you're loved, you're not abandoned. Mm-hmm. If you're loved, you're not ignored. If you're loved, you're not suddenly an enemy. Yeah. So all the things in hopelessness that the lies and the messaging that comes to your soul, that's why hope does not disappoint. Not because the outcome does not disappoint, but because the love reminds you of something that refutes the lies, that brings the hopelessness. So yeah, man, love is what you've been through with somebody, Jonnie.
I was quoting Reggie the other day to a friend who because he was talking about, I did a marriage cruise with him, and he was talking about like, it's the number one thing they get back on the comment cards that they want more of. Like, and I was like, I think it's because you go through these storms as a couple together and life is so serious and it takes your laughter away a little bit if you let it. And so when they get in a comedy show together and then look across and they're both laughing at the same thing, it's like it humanizes you in this instant. You feel this unity with a crowd. Yeah. and there's this release that happens. It's so powerful. And I was quoting Reggie to him. I was saying, like, I used to do these shows with this guy named Reggie Dabbs, and he remembered Reggie. He knew of Reggie. And I said, Reggie used to say he uses humor with kids because if he can get a crowd laughing, it means they still have hope.
Yeah.
It's so powerful.
Yeah.
Like, that's so real. Like, you're not all the way gone
if you're laughing.
if you're still laughing.
Yeah, nobody laughs whenever they have nothing to hope for.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's good stuff. John, it's a good segue to my segment. Johnny's Old Jokes. We call it Joke About That. John, what do you call a Frenchman in sandals?
Help me. I don't know.
Philippe. Okay.
I was not going to get there.
That's a dumb one. One time, this is just a story that I read on Reddit, and it's the truth, evidently a true story, because it said, I don't have a joke, because there's a whole Reddit thread that I'll pull some of these from about street jokes. But this one just said, this is not a street joke, but this is a true story. One time, me and my dad and his employee were just standing outside. A bird pooped on my dad's head, and his employee started to run off, and my dad's like, where are you going? And he said, to get some toilet paper. My dad says, why? It will just fly away before you get back. That's great. Sometimes truth is stranger than...
That's great.
The toilet paper was for him, John.
Right, he wasn't going to go wipe the bird.
Not for the bird.
Yeah.
John, you probably heard this one. We used to, because I think our buddy bass player Brian Finley used to tell this joke. But when I saw it on this thread, I was like, I have to tell. I've never told it on the show. Mozart died a long time ago and was buried in a local cemetery. The groundskeeper was doing his job and all of a sudden heard something odd. In a panic, he ran to the Pope. I don't know why the Pope's involved in this version of the story. He ran to the Pope and yelled, Pope, Pope. I don't know if that's what you would say. I think you would say whatever. I don't know. Come with me. There's something you have to hear. Two of them run back to the cemetery. They heard Mozart's Fifth Symphony. Then they looked at each other puzzled. But they stayed listening, and then they heard the Fourth Symphony, then the Third Symphony. And then the second played, and all of a sudden it dawned on the Pope, and he just looked at the groundskeeper and said, son, you do not need to worry. Mozart is just decomposing.
Come on, guys. That's...
Finally, John, I was on a date last night, and they asked what superpower I'd want. So I told them hindsight. They said, why would you want that? It wouldn't help anyone. I said, yeah, I can see that now. John, let's do This Week in History. We call it Talk About Then. Yeah, I can see that now.
Because it's hindsight, guys.
That's a superpower. John, the U.S. mail truck was a contract that was awarded this week in 1986. The mail truck as we know it, the boxy toaster-looking mail truck. Yeah. I did not know this. The U.S. Postal Service awards Grumman, Grumman, a $1.1 billion contract to produce 99,150 long-life vehicles, LLVs. They were about $11,000 each at the time in 1986 money, with an option to order an additional 54,000 units. The U.S. Postal Service provided a specification, and three companies vied for the contract by creating prototypes, with Grumman's being the winning entry. The Grumman LLV was the first vehicle specifically designed for the U.S. Postal Service. From 87 to 94, the USPS purchased more than 100,000 of these vehicles. The specified lifespan was 24 years, and they can last over 200,000 miles on their original engine, so they're a long-life vehicle. The gas mileage was terrible. It says it was a combined EPA of 17 miles per gallon, and in city driving, they average 8 to 10 miles per gallon. Ugh.
Which, I mean, stop and go. That's
what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what you're going to get. You get about 10 miles per gallon. In 2021, the USPS awarded Oshkosh Defense a contract to produce 160,000 delivery vans to replace the L. So some of these delivery vans are slowly replacing.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
It used to be a Jeep.
Yeah, and then it became these big, boxier,
back in the day,
taller. I guess it's more spacious, these other things.
I wonder if Jeep had the contracts before that.
Was it literally a Jeep vehicle?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, could be.
You ever see the movie The Postman?
Kevin Costner?
Yeah, post-apocalyptic.
No.
Really?
No. That's one of those when he was in his era of like everything's going to be 3.5 hours long and star me.
It's all post-apocalyptic.
Yeah. Waterworld. Waterworld kind of got beat up, and it was actually a decent film.
Yeah.
But it was just because it was the most expensive movie ever made. That's why they really beat it up. It was $200 million, which now $200 million wouldn't make you a Netflix movie.
No.
Everything.
I mean, that's back when that was a lot of money.
We spent that on the podcast.
Yeah.
John, this week, 1983, magician David Copperfield made the Statue of Liberty disappear on his TV special, The Magic of David Copperfield 5.
Huh.
Copperfield said he wanted to perform this illusion. I didn't know this part because I remember this as a kid. Because I think it's some kind of weird black cloak that came down and covered the.
Right, I remember that. Yeah,
it was a trick. It was like a video trick. But he wanted to do the illusion because his mother was an immigrant. She impressed upon me how precious our liberty is and how easily it can be lost. Then one day it occurred to me I could show with magic how we take our freedom for granted. Sometimes we don't realize how important something is until it's gone and has a black curtain draped in front of it, and camera tricks are used to. Anyway.
Were the people present?
I don't know how he did it, but it was basically, I mean, he didn't really make the liberty disappear. Not to be, I don't want to tip my hand, alert. But magic's not real. He's a witch.
Yeah.
John, born this week, 1908, John Graham Jr., he was an American architect. In the late 1940s, he designed what became the modern shopping center. He also designed the Space Needle for the 1962 Seattle World's Fair, which is a very important, you've seen that. A lot of space. We have the Gatlinburg Space Needle probably modeled after that Space Needle.
Just as important.
And the first revolving restaurant in Honolulu, Hawaii. Have you ever been in a revolving?
I have. I was in one.
What do you think of that? How do you feel? First of all, you feel like, hey, this is a $100 steak just because this restaurant turns.
I like it. I went to one in Chicago. I'm on junior class trip, and I remember we ate up there. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
I feel like that there was one in Seattle that I ate.
Maybe.
I ate at, because I remember this. I had my first lamb burger. I was in college. Remember SICM, Student Institute of Campus Ministry.
Sick 'em. That's awful. It's so funny. They reduced the Great Commission to
sick 'em. It was actually a really great time.
Go into all the world and sick 'em.
I spent 2 weeks up there. It was life-changing.
Yeah.
But
I remember you coming back and you had a lot to say.
What?
You were very fired up.
Well, I came back and I had broke up with my long-term girlfriend.
Yeah.
That was the girlfriend before I met Laura. And that was the big thing.
Yeah.
That I did that. And you were happy I did that.
I mean,
she was great. I think her life would have been miserable being with me in the life I've had. So
yeah, sick 'em. What's wrong with you? All right, John. Finally, born this week, 1918, Betty Ford. She was an American First Lady to Gerald Ford, the 38th U.S. President. Founder of the Betty Ford Clinic in 1982. Shortly after becoming First Lady, she underwent a mastectomy for breast cancer. Ford, deciding to be open about her illness, which was really different for the time, and her openness raised awareness of breast cancer, resulting in more women self-examining, which led to an increase in reported cases of breast cancer, a phenomenon known as the Betty Ford blip. Did you know about this? That because she was like, I found this breast cancer and I had a mistake. You need to. So it was so important, her outspokenness. And so people started catching breast cancer a lot sooner. This is something that the reason it makes the list. After Gerald Ford's loss of the 1976 presidential election to Jimmy Carter, First Lady Betty Ford put her dance lessons to use and danced on the White House cabinet room table. And there's a photo that I found of this. So there's actually a shot. And it was hidden for a long time. And the thought was, people are going to take this the wrong way, or with her history of alcoholism, they're going to think it's something that she'd lost her marbles. But I think it was she just thought, they can't fire us. We're leaving tomorrow. It was the day before the new president moves in, evidently. I think it's remarkable that she was just like, let's have a little fun in this room. So she danced on the table.
Man, I
think she was ready to go home, too. She was like, hey, we're going home.
Betty Ford's a national treasure. I mean, she was an icon. In fact, we need to get our friend Allison back on the podcast.
Yeah, that would be good. She knows a lot about this, probably.
Knows a lot about Betty Ford.
Do you think you could dance on this table?
I don't know if it'll hold.
Probably not. This is some IKEA nonsense right here.
Well, we could lower it because it raises and lowers to the lowest possible place if I fall. Johnny, here's the thing. When you fall, just don't be too far from the ground. You know what I'm saying? Want that, though? Some of y'all stay grounded.
Some of y'all.
So if you fall, okay.
Yeah. But anyway, Betty Ford, I agree with you, a national treasure. And I didn't know that about the breast cancer awareness and stuff. That it took a lot of boldness.
Well, yeah, no one was doing that then. As long as there's commercials about that and things. Interesting.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
That's all I have for this week.
That's it.
I'm sorry. Sorry, guys.
We were waiting with bated breath.
I know.
For
I did have one more. I forgot. I forgot one. Milk bottles. April 8th, 1879, John. The first milk sold in glass bottles in the U.S. Echo Farms Dairy of New York. And this is the reason it makes the list. because because you didn't grow up around, where the milkman and all that, right? We didn't grow up in that era. But prior to selling milk in glass bottles, the milkmen would just sell milk in bulk with the customer providing the containers.
What did they bring it in?
So you'd have to give them some, hey, here's the thing.
Oh, you just
bring it back to me tomorrow in this pot
they
or
just
whatever.
Took it to the farm.
And they get the raw milk and bring it to you, and you just go, all right, well, so you provide the tub or the lid or the whatever.
Interesting.
So then eventually they're like, we should probably just get our own bottle so it's more controlled.
Somebody got a big contract doing this.
I guess.
Yeah.
I just thought it's gross.
I don't know.
You're providing
as long as it's your own container and it's coming back to you. It's if everyone was just sharing containers, that'd be gross. But
you're just leaving these containers with people, not knowing what's happening.
You don't know what they're going to do. Yeah. Interesting.
That would be everybody wants to go back. We have this weird revisionist history about things, and nostalgia is a very powerful drug. But it's interesting to me that, like, people always want to go back, but nobody ever's like, I wish we got our milk in bottles again and we had to wait for the milkman. Do you think people want that?
There's a little bit of a movement towards
well, I know Amazon brings
right
our
now,
things. Yeah,
but,
there is definitely that. Raw milk and non-pasteurized.
Yeah, I think we like the past, but we want our modern comforts for sure. I mean,
yeah, we're picking and choosing. We were talking about that with Saturday Night Live because we were watching A Mighty Wind, and people really like, because it's been a show for 50 years, everybody looks back on it with these weird rose-colored glasses, the era that they were in high school. That was the best cast. But we were watching it in reruns, and they took out all the bad sketches.
Yeah.
So, and you're remembering also the greatest hits. So you're remembering Chris Farley falling through the table, but you're remembering the greatest hits of Chris Farley from those DVDs that we had when we were kids.
Of all the things he did, you're getting the funniest thing.
Yeah, and so I think we do that with everything. We do that with history. We do it with we do it with our childhood.
We curate it to the thing that we want the most.
Yeah, we have a very curated existence now, and now we curate it down to the, like, if you disagree with me, I'll block you.
And that's what I like about this podcast, because you do get us exactly as we are. This is raw milk.
This is raw, unpasteurized us in a tub that you gave us, and we brought it back to you, and we go, here, sorry, the lid's on crooked, but we don't know.
We don't know what happened to it.
Please, you're going to want to use Best Buy.
We lost sight of it for a long time in the middle of it.
We don't know what's going on.
It really is rare that we edit something out. It's occasional.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes Johnny would just go off, guys. You wouldn't believe it.
Right.
On just, a completely
like, well, that'll get me canceled.
Insulting rant about something. And I'll be like, dude, we can't do that. Dude, get off the table. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And
my Betty Ford moment.
Hey, by the way, everybody should watch West Wing again if you haven't.
We've been doing this. We've been saying this for 3 episodes now.
I know, but did I tell you about the episode?
Yes.
Was that the thing? Because they interviewed Gerald Ford.
Yes, of course.
Not
Betty Ford, though.
No, they didn't.
John, where would they find out more about our show?
Go to Gerald Ford. You go to talkaboutthatpodcast.com.
There's over 350 archived episodes for you. Click on the upper right-hand link if you want to get ad-free content, shows without commercials. If you want to write us a note, go to hello. Just start an email. Hello. In the field where you would write the two.
Oh, this
hello.
is okay.
At talkaboutthatpodcast.com.
In the field.
And in the subject, you write best podcast ever.
Oh, yeah.
And then say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Leave us a review, though. That helps other people find the show.
It does.
5 stars if you feel so inclined.
There's a lot of new people listening to the show right now. We love to hear from them.
There are, and that's great. And thanks for going back and listening to the older episodes, too, and seeing us kind of fumble our way through this journey.
Well, Johnny, we're all evolving. You know what I'm saying? We're becoming something different. You never stop becoming.
Isn't that something?
Mm.
Yeah. We're still moving ever closer to greatness. Fumbling towards it.
Fumbling, stumbling, bumbling.
Yes.
You should check out Jonnie W, JONNIEW.com for new tour dates. He's all over the country, people. Go join him.
If you live in Nashville, if you're in the Middle Tennessee area, or you want to drive, you're thinking about, hey, let's take a trip to Nashville. April 24th, I'm doing a co-headlining show with my buddy Steve Rogers. Steve opens for Brian Regan, Tom Papa, and Nate Bargatze on the road.
Yeah.
It's one of their main openers. So, it's going to be a great show. And we're doing co-headlining sets on that show. We just added Paula Kozinski, who's a kind of a rising star. She's actually doing the Ryman tonight as a part of a showcase for Nate Land. So that's kind of a big moment for her. Excited for Paula. And but she's great. It's going to be a great show. April 24th, that's at a theater called The Mockingbird. It's by the Factory in Franklin. So it's a cool, hip theater. And tickets remain. But limited, John.
Yeah.
Limited to how many we can sell.
Mockingbird is where our buddy Caleb Edwards did his show.
He does.
Right?
It's a great room.
Yeah, it's a great room.
What you would call in Nashville, you call it a listening room. It's a great room to see and be seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check it out, guys. Buy those tickets, man. Come be a part of it. It's exciting. And thanks to all of you who sent us messages and reviews and just good thoughts. We get a lot of good thoughts from you guys. It means a lot. And, John, I think we should do it again. What do you think?
I think we should.
Let's do it again next week here on
Talk About That.